In less than 100 years the majority of the planet's biggest beasts could become nothing more than a distant memory. By 2100, animals like leopards, great white sharks and elephants will be extinct unless conservation efforts step up, a new report says. From the poorly known, such as the Sumatra horned oryx, to more familiar species including tigers, lions, gorillas and rhinoceroses, experts have warned these large mammals are facing an extinction crisis. The report, published in Bioscience, covers the dangerous loss of large mammal populations around the globe. There is a risk that many of the world's most iconic species may not survive to the 22nd century, the researchers wrote in the paper. The scientists catalogued the peril of endangered species across 6 continents. Around 59% of the world's largest carnivores and 60% of the world's largest herbivores are threatened with extinction. This situation is the most dire in sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia, home to the greatest diversity of remaining large mammals. Large wildlife species are extremely vulnerable to threats because of their need for extensive spaces to live and low population densities, especially for carnivores. Produced by U.S.-based wildcat conservation organization Panthera, the report warns that a business-as-usual mentality will result in massive species extinction. A global commitment to conservation with support for developing nations is needed, the researchers said. The more I look at the trends facing the world's largest terrestrial mammals, the more concerned I am we could lose these animals just as science is discovering how important they are to ecosystems and to the services they provide to people, said William Ripple, lead author and professor of ecology at Oregon State University. It's time to really think about conserving them because declines in their numbers and habitats are happening quickly. To underline how serious this is, the rapid loss of biodiversity and megafauna in particular is an issue that is right up there with, and perhaps even more pressing than, climate change, said senior co-author Dr. Peter Lindsay. Human communities stand to lose key elements of their natural heritage if these large wildlife species are allowed to go extinct, Dr. Lindsay. The disappearance of such species could also significantly undermine the future potential for communities to benefit from ecotourism operations. Urgent measures are needed to address poaching, and to allow for the coexistence of people and wildlife if megafauna is to persist in the long term. The scientists have suggested drastic action should be taken in 2 ways. Conservation interventions expanded to scales that address animals' extensive habitat needs, they said. Policy shifts and increased financial commitments are also needed to alter the ways people interact with wildlife. The onus is on developed countries, the researchers said, which have long ago lost most of their large animals, to support conservation initiatives where the world's most celebrated wildlife still remain. The team also wants to come to an international consensus on the urgency of the crisis. Big creatures could be reintroduced into areas they have been eliminated from, using time-tested approaches that have been validated scientifically, the experts said. Examples of creatures that have been reintroduced are Yellowstone National Park's wolves and the David's deer.